right, good evening, Knutepunkt. Really excited to be here with you. This is our first time in Norway and in Knutepunkt to begin with. Yeah, so my name is. Let's go on with the topic. LARP at the museum. So that's going to be our topic. Why and how do we make history come alive? We worked. So in the past few years, we had the honor and the privilege to work with museums and bring the magic to the museums. But why is it interesting and why should you care? Yeah, there will be some dragons involved. So we're from Hungary, from Budapest, Hungary, so it might be the Hungarian hotel that's involved. Why is it important? Why do we think that you should care? So again, my name is Ndor, and with Balint here, we are the co-founders of Parallel Worlds Foundation, a small LARP collective doing Nordic-style games in Hungary. I come from a tourism background, and
my background is in filmmaking, and my passion for LARP started when I was a teenager, and somehow through the filmmaking I found my way back towards like improvisational techniques, improvisational co-creation, and back to LARP from there.
Yeah, we have a similar story in this because LARP is a hobby from my youth, and I returned back to it through tourism. So that's essentially so we have kind of a similar story. This is how we kind of started to co-create. And why is it important? So why do we think that LARP could help museums? Well, that's important. It's a powerful storytelling tool, so which could also benefit the museums. But before going into throughout the course of the talk, we're going to talk about 3 games that we did in different museums, or 4 different museums in Hungary, and we're also going to go into how we ended up doing other projects, experience and gamified experience projects for museums. So that's the plan for the next 15 minutes. So what is the museum? Let's go into that. So what is the museum for you? Is this a place where, is it a place of boredom, where it's just, essentially you go there and then, and it's just few objects.
Just that things, a place where you look at that things. Is it that place?
Or maybe it is the night at the museum. It's a place of adventure and magic. Or maybe it's somewhere in between. Yeah, so again, when we started to work with museums, it turned out that it's neither. It's more like this. So the way the museums think about themselves is not the exhibition space, but the storage. So at least this is what they found important. So again, here is me holding prehistoric Bronze Age artifact, and there is a worried-looking archaeologist behind me. So that's again, it's part of one of the game projects that we did. So they allowed us into their storage and to look at these items from a Bronze Age culture.
But they were not really happy.
Yeah. So again, museums think about themselves differently. So they are not necessarily about the sharing part. So let's see. So what are museums and what are they for, at least in their minds? So museums, they collect, they preserve, and they research these artifacts that they hold in their storage. And that's not their primary. I mean, at least this is what we found in Hungary. It may be different somewhere in other countries, but this was basically our key experience there. So museums are basically similar to someone that we might know, and that's Smaug, the dragon, or any dragon for that matter. So they collect and preserve items, precious artifacts, and they don't really like them to touch it, right? So again, the way these items are shared is usually through something like this, right? So podium where you can go and look only, maybe read something about it. But that's about it, really. You can't really experience it. And the traditional way of thinking about museum is that you're not even allowed to touch. So how do we How do we share? How do we create an experience around this? So again, what you see in a museum is the tip of the iceberg. Most of the items that that they hold is in their storage, which was something fascinating that we found. So we worked together with this museum in southern Hungary, and the storage actually occupied an entire former high school building. So there were prehistoric skulls in the gym of the high school building, so which I found fascinating. Okay, so that's a bit about museums. Museums also elsewhere, and also in Hungary, they do tend to go with this day and age of experience economy, and some of them they have different experiences that they designed for their exhibit spaces. Like I've shown just a few examples here. So they're not only about the traditional way, but for the most part, the places, the museums that we interacted with and worked with, they look more like this. And again, I intentionally chose not Hungarian museums, so that's when there's a scene from Mr. Bean there. So it's, again, kind of an empty space where you have things to look at, but not much of an explanation. You can actually interact. So how do you fill this space, and how do you make it come alive to look something like this? Or that's probably a little bit more like it. And the answer lies here. So this is the museum game show that we had the privilege to be part of. One of our partners, Open History, a Hungarian museum game design company, organized this event in the National Museum of Hungary in Budapest. And they invited a whole lot of game projects, board game designers, video game designers, and they basically turned the museum into a place of play. To basically shift this usual narrative about the museum. And on the cherry on the top, that we were also invited, and they gave us the cellar for a LARP. They gave us the Roman lapidarium, the Roman stone storage to work with, and we turned it into a LARPidarium. So we created a game just for this occasion, a small game based on Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere. So except for London Below, we went with Budapest Below, where you can, end up falling through the cracks. And that's the space on the bottom that we used. And we incorporated parts of the stories behind the items into the background of the world, and to the design and the writing of the characters. And one of the things that we learned when we started to create this game is that, this is the first time that they actually approached us with the question, okay, this is nice that you have this private event for players and for LARPers, but what if someone who actually came to the game show wants to just join for a few minutes? Is it possible to come to watch? So this is when we started scratching heads. Okay, how are we going to make this happen? And we designed for 3 levels of participation. I'm going to go with, so again, this is participation beyond LARPers. So we wanted to involve people who just may be interested by the entire concept of playing a game in a museum. So the 3 levels we had LARPers and reenactors playing pre-written characters in costume. We had a second level, so that's the character now on the left, playing in the field, holding the dagger. Then we had other LARPers playing simpler characters, not necessarily simpler, but characters that they designed. So characters that they created. And the third level is lurking behind them in the shadows. That was the visitors who just came to the museum or came to the event to play. And they would receive a 5-minute briefing, a mission, and they could have the chance to stay for the whole event or move on and try something else, try another game in the museum game. So that's basically so beyond LARPers, multiple levels of participation. So this is the first time that we encountered this challenge, and it worked out nicely. It was a game for roughly 50 players altogether, all of the levels of participation involved. So that's the 2 levels, and the third level. So the visitors, about 20 to 30 visitors came through just to pass by. So this was our first experience in a museum, using the museum game space. So museum as a game space. To turn basically well, essentially dead objects and place for exhibition into a place of play. And we also found out later on that there are cultural festivals that the museums are invited to. So we could also use that as an option. But I'll come to that in a minute. So what makes LARP in the museum special? What we came to find out is that the key thing was to actually design for different levels of participation. This is going to be a occurring theme. Again, cooperation with museum experts, with theater experts, museum educators. This cooperation with actors and reenactors came into the picture. Using the museums actually allowed us on their grounds, and we could use their objects as in some cases as MacGuffins. And again, the key driver was again education. So if you wanted to cooperate with the museum, when it comes to sharing whatever they are holding in their precious holds, they want that to have an educational edge. So these were the key things that we have found, and that leads us to the next game. That is not a LARP, but very close to it. So this was Journey to the Beginnings, a EU crowd of Europe founded project that involved creating a theatrical game for 5 prehistoric sites in Central Europe. So Hungary, Serbia, several other countries were involved. And so TAG, or Theatrical Adventure Game, is the brainchild of a Hungarian theater director, Máté Czakó, who would be the 3rd head of the Hungarian Horntail right now, but he couldn't make it, unfortunately. But so basically this is his brainchild, that he has never LARPed before. So he created something that is very close to LARP, but he is coming from a theatrical background. And so theatrical adventure games used as a template the point-and-click games of the early 90s, if you remember those. So essentially, imagine a game with 5 stations. Every station would have an actor. Participants come to interact with the actor, and they could go and pass to the next station if they do the proper thing on that spot, do the proper activity. So it's kind of more like a passive level of interaction. So you don't really play as a character. You're a participant of a theatrical adventure, but you interact with someone, with a person. In the case of Journey to the Beginnings, it was a character playing, or actor playing a character from prehistoric times. So. Why am I talking about theatrical adventure games at a LARP convention? Because of the next game that we created, and that's the one that we actually made together. And again, that game, which was part of, again, a game design project for an archaeological site and a museum, where we had to work together. So we were involved. We had in the creative team, we had a lot of different professions. So we had museum professionals. We had archaeologists on the team. We had museum educators. We had drama educators, and we had the aforementioned theater director on the creative team of the project. So it involved a lot of. So one of the challenges was to find the same language, kind of a language that we all spoke. So again, we definitely learned a lot through this. So this is the game that that I wanted to definitely mention. The third one, and this is the game where the theatrical adventure game and LARP as a concept kind of merges. Return to the Valley of the Wolf, or Vučedol, or Shared Heritage Vučedol. This was the name of the European, the Creative Europe project. It was a twinning project between a Hungarian and a Croatian museum in the southern part of Hungary, northern part of Croatia, a county called Baranya that we all share, and this used to be the center of the Vučedol culture, early Bronze Age culture that goes back to the to 2700 BC. So right around the same time as the pyramids were built and Stonehenge. So that's the time period. So kind of drawing from the experience of Journey to the Beginnings, which was a prehistorical project. We in the creative team we created a framework for a game that was well, partially theatrical adventure game, and partially LARP. So we had 3 levels of participation again. We had 3 actors who were playing the characters of this Bronze Age world. We had 6 LARPer characters, and we had up to 30 to 40 participants at each of the runs of Return to the Valley of the Wolf. The game itself, did it run in a museum? No, it didn't. We worked with museums, but it was basically about promoting the existence of the museum. So again, the culture is known in Croatia. It was a well-known thing in Croatia. It's virtually unknown in Hungary. So this was one of the key things that we bring awareness to the existence of the culture and the museum in Vukovar to the Hungarian public as well. And we took it to a theatrical festival, several theatrical festivals actually. So 3 theatrical festivals had the game run as the part of their program. Of course, the 3 actors were involved for each of the runs, but the LARPers, so the player characters, and the participants were different at each run. So it was basically going to theater, like going to a theatrical festival. Yeah. Here, what was special again is the focus on the artifacts. So we actually get to we made replicas of the artifacts. So we're not doing we're actually not playing around with a 5,000-year-old artifact that you can see over there, which is it's a vessel. It's a Bronze Age vessel, probably used for cultical purposes. Nice thing about working with the prehistory and the Bronze Age is that we don't know much about it, so there's a lot of room for magic and for interpretation and for fantasy contents to include. But this time around, so we actually used the artifacts as parts of rituals and as part of the plots with a purpose. The other, so just a segue back to the first game that I mentioned, Lemuralia, Budapest below. You see so in there we also ended up using the artifacts as part of the plot or part of the game, but it was not up to us, it was the players who made it happen. So you see the sarcophagus in the back with the large crack on it. So you fall through from the normal world to the special world, to the world of Budapest below, through the cracks. That was in the fluff. We wrote about it, but we didn't actually think that the players would think that it's actually this one, this crack on the sarcophagus. So again, they brought some, and learning from this, we actually moved away from, and this is why we ended up actually using the artifacts with the help of the archaeologists, of course. All right, so another thing that it brings about is that we were working together with people from different spheres that are very LARP adjacent, but not necessarily speaking the same language as we do. So a colleague of mine describes this as actors, theater people, and maybe reenactors. They all do similar things, but it's a different tube. So their vision is a little bit different if they are
different kind of tunnel vision.
Different kind of tunnel vision. So there was a tunnel vision, and it was nice to actually break that tunnel vision and see what are the similarities between our fields. Just one question on the picture: which are the actors and which are the reenactors? Which one do you think? All right. To the actors to the right, reenactors. No, the other way around. The other way around. So yeah, that's it. So those two actors are improv actors, alternative actors that were part of the Journey to the Beginnings and the Vučedol project as well. So yeah, and the others are Roman reenactors that we worked together with on the Budapest Below game. Of course, museums have a tendency to focus on the authenticity. I'm just going to tell one story about this. The pants was an issue for the Journey to the Beginnings project. Do they actually wear pants? And we don't know. That's actually the answer. And then can we display something that we are not sure of to the public? Is it authentic? Do we have the room for interpretation to tell stories like this? And in this project, they went with a yes, after a long debate, of course. So education, just one word on it, and the picture on the right displays how education, I think, takes place at the end of at one of these games. Because that's the debriefing after a run of Return to the Valley of the Wolf, where we had after the game concluded and we return with the participants and the players to the real world. We have a real archaeologist joining the debriefing, and the participants had the chance to pepper her with questions about the culture. So that's pretty much where and usually the briefings lasted sometimes at least half the time of the run. So the game usually lasted about 1.5 to 2 hours. Debriefings usually for an hour or more. So and this is it. So if we and I enjoy that because I think sparking curiosity is the thing that we can aim to if we want to educate. Well, thanks to these projects, we ended up doing.
Yeah, this is going to be just a quick detour from LARP. So we also have been designing experiences for museums that are other gamified experiences than LARP. Actually, I will just jump back to the Vučedol project really quick and also mention it there that there was made a kind of like a mega game, like board game that was also promoted through these festivals and special events. And currently we are working on one project that is an AR game for Lepenskivir Visitation Center, which is also a prehistoric site, which is really special. What is really special about this site that there is you can really grasp the change from Mesolithic to Neolithic culture, and that what you have there is all these like the base is the foundation of the houses, so it really called for an AR, and that's one project we're working on now. And there is another project we're working on for the like open air museum, Hungarian open air museum, like basically ethnographic museum, and that's about Saxon minorities history in Transylvania, and that's going to be more of a spatial interactive fiction. Let's say, let's put it that way. What is common with these projects and the LARP projects we do is like that these are also all based on characters. So all the visitors, they get to choose some kind of character that they're gonna go through, like in a way, playing this character, they go through a story. Yeah, and I think we have to finish now.
And just to wrap it up there, if you're interested in using LARP or role as a tool for historical interpretation, then do talk to us during the conference, because that's what we're interested in. We have a couple of projects in the works, in the pipeline. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you.